Howdy, folks. It's your skipper here, Darius Dale, or Swami D, as I'm known in the DraftNet community, here to present our 2022 NFL Draft Preview. So let's just hop right into it. Starting with our disclaimer, football is not soccer. Football is played by the world's biggest, fastest, strongest, and angriest people. And I think soccer is played by some of the prettiest men on the planet. Very different sports for my European friends out there. Anyway, so what we're going to do here, we're going to isolate three prospects, sort of the big names that we're all hearing about. I'm going to give my variant perception, my variant views on some of these prospects in terms of where they might go relative to the consensus big board. So we got stock up, stock down on some of the players that I think are getting a little bit too overhyped. So we'll start with Jamison Williams in Alabama. He's on the consensus big board. He's number one, first round, 13th overall pick. I think he's the best player in the draft. I think Aiden Hutchinson's a fine, phenomenal football player. He's going to play a lot of good snaps in the National Football League. But I just don't think there's not a lot of human beings that have ever graced the earth with the kind of speed and explosiveness that Jamison Williams provides. And, oh, by the way, he's a good catcher of the football as well and a good route runner, very crafty route runner for someone who's moving that quickly. Huge fan of Jermaine Johnson. Again, I think he's the best player in the draft. I think his value is first round, first overall. Jermaine Johnson, edge defender out of Florida State. He's 11th on the consensus big board. I think he's the fifth best player in the draft behind, obviously, Jamison Williams, Aiden Hutchinson, both the cornerbacks. You got Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley. Pick your poison there in terms of what you like. And then ultimately, I think Jermaine Johnson would be the next up after that. And then Malik Willis. I know folks are either super high on him and his potential, or they're super low. But generally speaking, this is a draft that is heralded as not having great quarterback play, great quarterback options to choose from. So a lot of teams are kind of holding out hope or stockpiling picks for next year's should be a very robust quarterback crop. But I think this Malik Willis kid brings a lot to the table, man. I would take him in the top 10. When you watch his film, you put on the tape, particularly in some of the bigger games that he's played against, with the exception maybe that Ole Miss game. Kid shows up, man. He's a really, really talented football player, and I think the stuff that he's bad at can be coached. And then shifting gears a little bit to stock down, I don't get the hype on Trayvon Walker. I think he's an early second round guy. He's a traits guy. Guy's got traits for days. I don't see it on the field though. So he's going to be I think he's more developmental than people are caring to admit. Certainly in the consensus big board, he's a fifth overall player. He wasn't even the fifth best defender at Georgia in the past season. So how in the hell is he the fifth overall player on the consensus big board? That to me is a question mark. I think Trevor Penning is a tackle, just as a function of the position he plays. He's going to get overdrafted. Tackles, playing out on the edge, tackles, corners, quarterbacks, anybody who affects the passing game, either hitting the quarterback, protecting the quarterback, catching the football, throwing it. Those are premium positions in the draft, and so they're going to get he's likely to get overdrafted. But I see a mid-second round kind of prospect when I watch his tape. And then lastly, Kamakwanu, phenomenal football player. I don't really have too many negative things to say, but I think consensus big board 1-3, third overall player is quite a bit rich. So we'll go into our scouting reports on each of these players. So let's just get right into it. Starting with Jamison Williams here. I mean, scouting report is, holy cow, this guy's deep speed is rare. Holy cow, this guy's burst is rare. His nickname should be Hamstring Williams, because that's what people pull trying to catch him in the open field. On the cons, he's rail thin. His play strength will be an issue early in his career. I think he can get bodied at the top of routes by squatty cornerbacks. Who the hell is squatting on this guy? So I'm not sure that's too big of an issue. And he's, maybe he's a one-trick pony in terms of his deep speed, but I mean, it's pretty damn good, one trick, again, as I mentioned, I think he's the best player in the draft. I think I compare him to a Bob Bullet Hayes out of the Cowboys, who at one time was the fastest man in the world for a long period of time. He had the Olympic record for the 100-meter dash, played for the Cowboys. I think he had around 8,000 yards in his career. I think if a team finds a role for Jamison Williams, he could be a 10,000-yard receiver. I mean, he's just the kind of guy who can pick up yards and touchdowns in bunches. And it's just hard to find those guys. I mean, there's just not a lot of Jamison Williams on earth. So let's get into the film here. I mean, he's got some sick. This Miami play is stupid. It just, who runs away from people at that level like this? Look at the safety. Look at this safety tear a hamstring, just dive out of bounds and almost take his buddy out with him. I mean, come on. I mean, who runs away from people like this at any level of football? I mean, usually you see it in high school when there's a 5-star recruit blowing past a guy whose last snaps will be, at some, high school football program. But you don't usually see this in the SEC. I mean, he's torching Georgia defenders. That's Lewis Seen. Number 37 runs a 4.37. and he just ran right by him. Look at him, a 16 rather. Sorry, number 16. It's rare. You don't see this. Oh, this Arkansas play is disgusting, and we'll move on after this. But I mean, when the quarterback throws this football, and I don't know if they'll show the replay, he is further, or he's more upfield, so he's closer to the quarterback when the quarterback throws a football. Look at this. Look at this. This is shades of rookie year Randy Moss. I mean, he's not Randy Moss because he doesn't have that catch radius. But man, that deep speed is legit. It's legit. Look at the safety. Look at this poor guy's hamstrings. He's out of the play. He didn't even try. Couldn't try. So yeah, I think we've seen enough. We've all seen enough. He's the best player in the draft, folks. All right, next player. Stock up, Jermaine Johnson. Great get off. He has pass rushes with a plan. He knows how to attack half a man's. His hands and feet are coordinated to an elite degree. I mean, I'm talking Michael Bennett stuff. Heavy hands. You do not block this dude with the tight end. I hate when I see it. I hate when I see teams just, it's the blocking scheme, so let's just put the tight end on him. Well, guess what? Tight end's going to get his butt knocked into the dirt. You can't run outside zone with this guy when he's playing 5 or 9 technique leverage. I mean, the tackles, you're not going to be able to reach this guy. I mean, you're going backwards. Cons, why did he transfer from Georgia? I mean, he would have been, from what I see on film, he would have been the best player on the Georgia defense. And he only really has 1 year of elite production. So it's, a guy with all these traits and all this talent. Maybe it just took him a while to put it all together. Or, you got to wonder about that. But at the end of the day, he put it on film. So that's what I really care about. He's a little undersized. He'll struggle against gap schemes. You get, kind of teams trying to run, power or counter to his side, and he's going to get knocked back a little bit. But, that is what it is. Everyone gets knocked back in those regards. I think his player comp, he reminds me of Michael Bennett, at peak Michael Bennett. Obviously, Michael Bennett had an up and down career, but at his peak, he was a top 100 football player, all pro, guy who can get you double-digit sacks, and quite frankly, was just a menace on both run and passing downs. And if you get 2013, 2014 Michael Bennett, you run that card up there with the 5th overall pick. So let's get a little bit of film study with here. And this is what I mean by connecting the hands and the feet. It's a very nuanced pass rusher. The guy understands how to freeze the tackle's feet. It's one of the hardest things to do as a former offensive tackle myself, a left tackle. A guy who can freeze your feet and have a legit two-way go, burst to the inside or the outside. It's the hardest thing to defend with. There's that little subtle movement you just saw there. That little subtle movement there. Right here. Boom, boom. And stops the tackle's feet, and then he explodes to the outside or explodes to the inside. And there's not a lot of guys who are skilled enough technicians who can put that kind of stuff together. Certainly not at the college level. So when you see it, it jumps out on film, and this is why he's my number 5th player in the draft. Malik Willis, pros. I think this is a scouting idiom, but you don't grade the player, you grade the flashes. At least that's what some scouts say. The others say you grade the whole body of work. But I think when you talk about don't grade the player, grade the flashes. The two guys that really stand out, and these are arguably the 2 best quarterbacks playing National Football League right now, with the exception of maybe Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes. You had 6 guys drafted ahead of Josh Allen's, 2 or 3 quarterbacks drafted, or 2 quarterbacks drafted ahead of him, 6 people total, and you had 9 people drafted ahead of Patrick Mahomes. And so that including Mitchell Trubisky, by the way. And so clearly they were grading Mitchell Trubisky's body of work and not the flashes that Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes was putting up. And when I say flashes, Willis flashes are elite, man. I watched every single game of his that I could find on the internet, because he's a conundrum. You don't know if he's great or you don't know if he's good or bad. He's got a lot of bad tape out there. There's a lot of just head scratching, bone scratching interceptions and stuff like that, but not a ton. I thought I would see more because the guy had 12 interceptions last year, but I would say legitimately 6 of them were like just balls that ricocheted off the receiver's fingertips, and all that kind of stuff. So that to me is an issue, but was not as big of an issue as I thought it was. But his flashes are elite. I mean, these are several jaw dropping plays per game, throws per game, like just like far hash kind of stuff. Just like deep comeback on the other side of the field, just ropes it in there. I'm just like, holy cow! There's like 5 people on earth that can do that, like Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Malik Willis, and who I'm not sure who else who I even put in the list. But I mean, it's elite stuff. And then you talked about his running. I mean, he could switch positions and be one of the top 32 running backs in the league. His elusiveness and tackle breaking ability are off the charts. I can tell. And then you watch a game. I've seen every game that I could find on the internet of him. His head moves around when he's going through his progressions. He's I wouldn't say he's not Tom Brady comfort level in the pocket, Aaron Rodgers comfortable in the pocket, but he's got a comfortness to it. He's got a feel for the extra rusher, the blitzer. he just doesn't, and this goes to the cons. He just doesn't find the hot man. He cannot, for whatever reason. I don't know if it was a Liberty offense or just he's a big play kind of guy, but this ball does not come out when it needs to on whenever they're overmanned in the pass protection of the scheme. Whenever you send the extra rusher or the front, so the offensive line's overloaded from a numbers perspective, he doesn't know how to replace the defender and find the hot man. I'm serious. Like he just there's dozens of plays where this guy is literally the running backs in the flat, receivers in running a smoke route or something, and there's nothing. It's just like, man, get rid of the football, please. You're gonna get yourself hurt, man. Because but at the end of the day, he's a phenomenal runner. He breaks a lot of tackles, gets out of the pocket clean, looks to throw sometimes. When he has men downfield, but oftentimes he'll run and kind of do it himself. And at the end of the day, you can't do that at the NFL level. I mean, the team needs you to show up for 17 games. And, at the end of the day, you're playing quarterback QB1 in the National Football League. So I think he's got to work on that. I think that's something that can be coached. And at the end of the day, when you watch his bad film, it's really not his fault. I mean, this O-line was crappy. His receivers dropped the ball way too many times. And so I think at the end of the day, he tried to make too many big plays, as any super talented QB would do, playing with a bunch of misfits. That's what you do. You're just like, oh, I got to put the team on my back. And guess what? He put the team on his back. The guy was a phenomenal rusher, phenomenal passer, scored a lot of points, was a good ball, counts as a great leader. I think he's going to be. I think people, having myself, I had a low grade on Josh Allen. I'll be honest. I didn't really, kind of think about grading Pat Mahomes. It was kind of like, developmental kind of quarterback. And guess what? I was wrong on that. And I think a lot of the league was wrong on that, in terms of, kind of underestimating the value that these types of, phenoms from a talent standpoint can bring. You get them in the right coach, you get them in the right room, and you get them in the right organization, and it all changes. And it can change, and we've seen it change. And so I have confidence that Malik Willis, if he's got a good head on his shoulders, as people kind of in the draft community are raving about, he's going to clean up the stuff that he needs to clean up, and I think he'll be a Pro Bowl quarterback. So I'm comfortable taking him in the top 10. I think his fair value is around 6 relative to the other players on the board. In the player comp, if Josh Allen and Donovan McNabb had a baby, it would literally be Malik Willis. He's got Josh Allen's arm, but not quite. It's probably 95% of Josh Allen's arm, and he's probably 110% of Donovan McNabb's running ability and running style. And so I think that's his ceiling there. Did I get it? Ceiling? Oh, Bob Billa Hayes was ceiling. So there we go. So get down to stock down. I would hate to line up against a guy like Trayvon Walker. When you look at him off the bus, it's terrifying. And you see these people and you go, man, it's going to be a long game. And then you play against a guy like that and you're like, man, like, I didn't really, it's like that other guy was actually better than him, and it's like, I don't get it. But let's talk about his pros, because obviously he's, they're, top 5 or top 3 or whatever in the consensus big board. So why is he up there? If you went into a laboratory to design NFL edge rusher, you would literally walk out of the lab with Trayvon Walker. I mean, the guy has freakish measurables, so fast, so elite, so explosive, so big, like there's just arms length. I mean, this guy has the longest arms. So you can't even touch the guy if he didn't want you to touch him. Now that's a problem. I don't see him use those tools very much. That's the issue. I mean, that gets into my the last pro. Is that he must be a high IQ guy because he plays a multitude of positions at Georgia. I've seen him line up at 0, seen him line up at shade nose. I've seen him line up at 3 technique, 5 technique, 9 technique. I've seen this guy play off the ball linebacker. Like, he's probably played every position outside of corner and safety, so like he's clearly a high football IQ guy if you can understand that, what to do in such a complex scheme as Georgia, which, by the way, is one of the best defenses of all time, that Georgia team last year, coached by a great coach, Kirby Smart. Cons, are you serious with this guy? I mean, watch the tape. You kidding me with this guy? Rumored to go first overall, Jacksonville. That would be such a Jacksonville pick. It's like this terrible franchise with horrible leadership. You just like constantly swinging and missing, and then, like, that would be such a Jaguars pick if they picked this guy first overall over Aiden Hutchinson. I just don't see enough flashes. He doesn't show up on tape enough to justify the insane draft buzz. Like, at the end of the day, it's the National Football League, not the national run around in Under Armour and Speedos league. We know he's a freak athlete. We know he looks good running around on turf. Can he play football? And I've seen some flashes. Like, there are flashes. There are flashes. There's just not enough of them. Like, you played a whole season of football. Like, I need more plays out of you, big guy. But he's a great athlete. But, his get off is not elite. I think when he wants it to be elite, it is. It just isn't elite very often. He just doesn't do it. He doesn't do it enough, and that's the issue. It's kind of this is why I player comped him to Jadeveon Clowney. It's like Jadeveon Clowney can make some whoa plays. Like, whoa, nobody else can do that. but it doesn't. It happens like 3 times a game, and then the other like 80 snaps in the game, or 65 snaps or 75 snaps. He's like, man, where did this guy go? Where did this number one overall pick go? And you should never. You're taking someone number one overall. He should be among the best players on the field in any game he plays. And that's just it. And it's I don't see it with Trayvon Walker. Maybe he'll get there. And he's obviously a project, so that's why I say he's a second round kind of guy. You get guys in the first round who are going to come in, start, be good, and hopefully have Pro Bowl potential. So let's get into a little film study. We don't need to do a lot of film study here, but I want to hope everyone can see my mouse hovering over this 3-minute and 19-second highlight clip. How do you have a highlight clip of the number one overall pick of the draft and the potential number one overall pick in the draft who only has highlights for 3 minutes and 19 seconds? That's not a lot. I've seen highlight tapes that are like 6-7 minutes long. This guy's highlight tape is 3 minutes. You're talking about he's the number one overall pick. This is a gun. This is a stunt. He's running a game. He's running a T or ET. He loops around on an ET and gets a sack. That has nothing to do with his ability to play football, right? He drops into coverage and gets his hand on the ball, and it's athletic. It's impressive. I think that's impressive. But you're not taking a guy number one overall to play QB spy and get in passing lanes. No, you want a guy to get after the damn quarterback's ass, harass him all game, put him on the turf, make it a living hell to play football against your defense. Here's another game where he loops around on a 3-man game here, and it's like, yeah, you got the sack, but you didn't do anything. That was scheme. It's all scheme. It's a phenomenal scheme, by the way. That's a sick blitz. That'd be hard to pick up, but it's just I don't see. And this is the play everyone keeps showing, like, oh, this is why you drafted number one overall. The guard trips on the center's foot. He didn't just watch the guard's right foot, number 54, trip over number 55's foot. Watch his foot. Trayvon Walker didn't do that. The guard just tripped. Now, he made the guard trip, and I give him credit for making the guard trip, but he doesn't get this sack. It's not as impressive of a play if that guard doesn't trip. You know what I mean? He makes one like ferocious, legit, insane play against Michigan. I want to show you, and it's why people I think are super high on him. I mean, he hits that Michigan guard. I think they were running they were running a trap play to his side, and he hits that kid so hard. Oh, I don't think they have it in this highlight. Sorry. Anyway, he was a stand up off the ball, or stand up on the edge edge player, and they're running a trap to his side. The backside guard comes over and and tries to kick him out, and it was like that Jadeveon Clowney highlight where he beat Teo Luan and knocked the guy's head off. It was very similar to that play. And so when you see that kind of stuff, you go, oh, man, if he can do that, if I can just coach it out of him, another sack here. But he just falls off a block because the quarterback starts running. Like, I don't see him use his hands and his explosiveness nearly enough to beat tackles to get to the quarterback. It's just not enough of it. And I don't understand how you can draft a guy number one overall if you haven't seen him do it consistently in college. That's my issue. All right, Trevor Penning, stock down. Pros, elite size and athleticism for the position. You can't coach those traits. I mean, this guy's 6'7", 325, great athlete, runs well, jumps well, all that good stuff. Strong. He's a finisher. He plays through the whistle every snap, and I mean through the whistle. He's the kind of guy you hate to play against in the trenches. Like you playing against a guy like that, it's a long day at the office kind of guy. Like you at the end of that game, you get to that guy in the line, and you're like, that good game, bro. That was a hell of a game. That's the kind of guy he is. But as a former offensive tackle, I think I probably have a higher degree of scrutiny on guys in the trenches in terms of offensive and defensive linemen when I grade these guys. But one thing that really bothers me is like he just fails to protect his chest. It's such an alarming frequency. Like power rushers will dump him. Like a Khalil Mack will take. You see that eye right here on his jersey? Khalil Mack will come in with his inside arm and take that eye, take his hand, put the palm of his hand right between that 0 and that NI, and drive him up in the air and put him into the quarterback slot. And there's nothing you can do about it if you don't learn how to protect your chest at that level, because those are the apex predators of the world, not the National Football League. You see Khalil Mack walking down the street, you cross the street at nighttime because Khalil Mack is a freak, nasty, scary looking human being. And so, same with Myles Garrett, same with all these freaks. That's a hard position to play, the offensive tackle in the National Football League, because you got a murderer's row of freaky, massive, enormous, strong, scary individuals. And I just fear for him if he's going through that murderer's row without the ability to protect his chest. He's also so used to dominating inferior FCS competition. And so I think his just overall technique, his hand placement, all that kind of stuff, it just leaves much to be desired. I think that's the kind of stuff you can coach. I'm not too much worried about that. But I think he's got the chest thing is a bad habit, man. And another bad habit, and this is stuff that I hate someone's probably going to get into coaching high school football at some point later in my life. 16 holding and or personal foul penalties last season. 16, not false starts, holding and or personal fouls. So going backwards 10 yards or 15 yards, the drive's over. You go backwards one time, 10 yards on any offensive drive, the probability of success for that drive goes to like 5%. You go back 15 yards, it's probably 3%. You're punting. So he caused most likely 16 punts in a football over the course of a season. I mean, that'll kill you. That'll cost you a game at some point over the course of a season. And so that play through the whistle stuff, like, he's heralded by a lot of folks in the draftnik community for being this, hard-nosed, play through the whistle kind of guy. And I love it, but I don't love it to the point where you're actually costing the team. Your personal vendetta, whatever gets you out of bed, that coffee, that smelling salt is actually going to cost the team. And that's not good. And so that's why I got a mid-second round grade on him, because I think he's got some stuff to clean up. I think he's going to struggle early in his career in pass protection if he can't get that chest that he does not protect his chest. Get these people's hands off you. They want their hands on you so they can manipulate and move you. Get them off you. But yeah, player comp, I got Eric Fisher, but with a nasty attitude. He's like Eric Fisher woke up on the wrong side of the bed. There's a snap in here I want to show. We're not spend too much time on it. I think he's going against the Oklahoma guy. And you see him physically get lifted to the air. I mean, it was wild. And again, this is a 6'7", 325-pound person right here. Here's that snap. He gets lifted into the air, and it's purely as a function. He doesn't know what to do. Look at his hands. Look how wide his hands are. Let me go back to the snap. Let me go back to this. Make sure you see him go into the air. I want to make sure you see him go into the air. Watch his feet. Boom. He got literally forklifted. 95 just forklifts him because his hands are too wide. He's bear hugging him. Your hands have to be precise at that level. They got to be so precise. The 95's hands were precise, and that's why he forklifted him into the quarterback. And I've seen this on him. I mean, you could keep watching it. You see it on him a lot. See, happens again. Look at him. He's getting forklifted. Look at that. You're talking about a first-round tackle, putting that on film? No, that's a developmental project. That guy is 70 pounds lighter than him, Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State. 70 pounds lighter than him. Dumps him all the way back. See, dumps him back. Look at all these people's hands on his chest. You can't play football at the National Football League level at tackle if you can't protect your chest. You will get dumped and forklifted back into the quarterback on every play. And this brings me to my last player, Ike Mekwano. By the way, I love doing this. I don't know, maybe 42 macro doesn't work out, which unfortunately it is working out. It's working out too well because I would actually prefer to do this for a living. This is fantastic. Anyway, scouting report on Ike Mekwano. I love the kid. I hope this just should read more like a, we're downgrading it on valuation as opposed to Carson Block style short report. This is fraud. The thing's going to bagel. It's a bagel. It's going to zero. So it's more like a sell side downgrade. He's got elite quickness and burst in the run game. I've seldom seen any tackle cut off a backside three technique as consistently and effortlessly as he does. I mean, it's a hard block to make. Like, I mean, the whole concept, the stretch, the outside zone, that whole scheme, you got to make that backside cutoff for the play to work. Otherwise, the play doesn't really work unless somehow you're mauling somebody on the front side and playing the back and bounce it outside. But you can't hope for that. The play is designed to cut back between that seam of three technique and the nose tackle on the front side. You got to move the nose and create the seam. And that's where the ball usually cuts back between that front side A gap, or sorry, that backside A gap and that backside B gap. He will 100% of the time. That's fine. You're going to be able to run the ball that outside zone away from him. You can obviously run it towards him because he's a freak at the point of attack. He's got real grown man strength. Football is a game played by very large, angry, strong, fast, explosive men. He's got grown man strength among those people. So like an additional level of grown man strength. So I think he's fine. Phenomenal in the run game. And he's a finisher too. He buries people. And has the play strength to do so. But it's not like Trevor Penning, whereas he's burying the guy and grabbing him and trying to wrestle him down after the whistle and punching him, pushing him into the, just doing too much. As a guy, I actually got a guy kicked out of a game once. We were playing Columbia. We were running the clock out. It's the best player I ever played against in college. This guy, I forget his name, Lou Miller. Really good player, excellent player. We were running the game. We were running the clock out, running basically 4-minute drill. And so we kept calling chase left, which is outside zone to my side on the weak tackle side. And the coach liked the matchup, and I liked the matchup, and I just gave that guy hell, like play after play after play at the end of the football game. And one of those plays was like 3rd down and 6, and I reached him and I took him from the hash, from the left hash, through our sideline, buried him into our bench. He gets up, rips my helmet off, and tries to fight me, and gets kicked out of the game. They're their best player. So that's the kind of stuff that's the kind of stuff you want from an offensive tackle. It was well within the confines of the play. I buried the guy, and it was continuation. What is not continuation is when you don't bury the guy, but you want to, and towards the end of the play, you're just trying to wrestle him down on the ground and all that extracurricular stuff. And Ike Mukwano doesn't do that. That's what Trevor Penning does. Ike Mukwano from the beginning of the snap to the end of the snap, he is in your grill. Your butt is on the ground. It's flat back. It's pancake. That's why I love him. So, but cons, and obviously this is the reason why stock's down. I don't love his hands in the passing game. He looks like like he's got these massive arms, big mitts, like he can punch the hell out of you for days, and he does sometimes. But a lot of times, though, it looks like his hands are along for the ride in his kick slide. Like if your hands are late in the National Football League playing against Khalil Mack or Myles Garrett or what's my man T.J. Watt or even Aaron Donald when they line him up outside, if your hands are late, the play is over. You just saw what happened with Trevor Penning. His hands he's bear hugging, and he's giving up his chest. And every single time the people were just forklifting him. These are guys who are going to be, Aaron Abakid is a 2nd or 3rd round kind of player. Maybe he sneaks in the lower end of the 1st round, but I doubt it. There's a deep edge group. He's the kind of guy maybe he'll start for 2-3 years in the league, but probably a backup. And you're talking about an offensive tackle that's, getting forklifted by a guy 70 pounds lighter than him. See, that's not the kind of tape you want on film from a 1st round tackle. You're not going to see that kind of tape from Ike Mukwano. What you're going to see is a guy who's so big and strong that a lot of times he just doesn't really know what he's doing because he's so used to being big and strong. And that's what I mean by his hands will be a bit late, this kick slide. You won't get him up there in time. And so, the defensive end will have an edge. And a lot of times what that really means is that the defensive end can get control of your outside shoulder, control of your outside elbow, and get them a soft edge because you're too late with your hands. If your hands are early, you stop them earlier, they're further away, you can give yourself more space to cut them off and kick slide and put yourself right down the middle of their frame. And it's hard to do that if your hands are late. Your hands got to get up there and get on them quick. I was taught, and I think I did a really good job as someone who didn't give up a single sack as a 4-year starter. You get on them quick, stop their momentum early, and the play's over. A lot of times these guys, they kick slide too far back. You see it every week. There's 2 things you see every week when you watch a football game, a National Football League game. Tackles who kick slide too far back, and then they wind up getting dumped in the quarterback. And you watch cornerbacks who can't find the damn football in the air. When a guy's, and I'm really going around on this because I thank God it's my platform, I can rant. When a guy's 30 yards downfield or 20 yards downfield running a route, unless his name is Tyreek Hill or Julio Jones, at which point you need to be putting full burners on anyway, he's not going to break and make a new cut. Turn your dang head around, young cornerbacks. I'm talking to you young high school men and women and whoever's playing the cornerback position at the college level. And hell, some of you pros, turn around and find the damn football. You're playing football, not race. You're not racing a guy to the end zone. You got to find the football. You just see it every week. And these guys, they panic and they don't turn around and find the football. Guy's not going to break again. He's already 10, 20 yards downfield. The play's only 3-4 seconds long, 5 seconds at most. The guy's not going to run a 32-yard in cut. Like, no, go find the football. Sorry for the rant. So just wrapping up on Ike Mukwano, his problems are coachable. I don't really have a ton to say negative about him. I just think his hands and kick slide can be better. For someone talking about 3rd overall, like you go like, that's like Walter Jones, Jonathan Ogden, Tony Baselli, who are these, kind of Anthony Munoz. You taking a tackle that high. I need to see elite pass protection traits. I need to see a guy who's going to be a quarterback's best friend, not necessarily a guy who's going to be the running back's best friend. You want both. Walter Jones was both. Jonathan Ogden developed into a great run blocker over the course of his career. But at the end of the day, what you really want is a guy who you can set it and forget it, put him on an island, you kick slide the protection away from him because he's going to win his individual matchup, and it frees you up to do a lot more stuff with your blocking schemes. So I just don't know that he's there yet. And they're talking about maybe even moving him to guard because of that deficiency. And I'm like, you don't take guard 3rd overall. I don't care if he's Quentin Nelson. I don't care if he's Steve Hutchinson, who's a Hall of Famer for the Seahawks. You don't take a guard third overall. It's just the value of that pick is just not high enough. So let's get into a little bit of film of what I mean by his hands. Uh, yeah, let's get into his hands on this. Oh, see, my man. Yeah, where we at? Yeah, see, I don't mind that at all. He's just hit me. Here we go. Here we go. Boom. This is the snap I want to show you. Look at his hands. They're too low. Like, and then he just like by the time the defender is already even with him by the time that he shoots his hands here. That inside hand, that hand right there on the white sleeve. One, the kick slide was poor. You know, he didn't cut him off. You got to go out there and get him. Don't give him that soft edge. Put your helmet right down the middle of his helmet. Make him go around you because you're bigger. And take that inside hand. You take that inside hand with that white sleeve on it, and you take it and you jam it right through that three. Jam it right through that three. And it was way too late, and that's why he gave up that pressure. You know, it's like his hands are too late right there. Boom. His hands are too late. The other guys getting their hands on him faster than he's getting their hands on him. And so that to me is an issue. You got to be, it's got to be quick. It's got to be instant. And so he'll get better at that, I think, as he gets more play time and good coaching. But to me, I just don't see third overall pick, third best player in the draft, if you have such a major deficiency, a major flaw that is so core and central to the position. So with that, kind of wrapping up, Darius Dale, Swami D. Our 2022 NFL draft coverage, stock up. Jameson Williams, I think he's the best player in the draft. Jermaine Johnson, I think he's the fifth best player in the draft. Malik Willis, number 6. I'd be taking all three of these guys in the upper half of the top 10 of the draft. Stock down, Trayvon Walker. I just don't see it on film. I mean, maybe it will come. You don't take a guy in the top 5 or top 10 or even maybe in the first round if you don't see enough of it on film. Trevor Penning needs to clean up that chest issue. And I'm not sure. A lot of guys have these bad habits that develop. They never really unclean up, you know. It's just, you resort to your bad habits when you're overmatched. That's what happens. You know, the bad habits are there for a reason because you think you're protecting yourself. But at the end of the day, all you're doing is exposing yourself to more risk. And then lastly, Mequano, he's just got to get his hands out of the holsters faster. He's got to get the guns out of the holsters way faster and get those angles on those kick slides much better. He's kick sliding with way too soft of an edge. So that's it. Darius Dale presenting our Swami D presenting our NFL draft coverage. Everyone have a wonderful draft. It's going to be a great draft, deep draft. I think that it's been heralded as not enough QBs, not great QBs, not enough tie-in elite talent. I think this is a great draft. I think a lot of teams, a lot of your favorite teams are going to be very happy. A lot of you fans will be very happy after this weekend because there's a lot of depth. I think you're going to get some starters all the way through round 3 and maybe potentially into the early part of round 4. So with that, catch you back here next year. Cheers.